So next testifier from Hilo, please.
Yeah, good morning, Council. Corey Hardin speaking for myself in support of Resolution 363 for a peaceful solution in Korea. People are probably wondering why North Korea is so belligerent, but who knows about the U.S. bombing during the Korean War? A former Washington Post reporter calls that bombing perhaps the most forgotten part of a forgotten war. He adds, Dean Rusk, later Secretary of State, said the United States bombed everything that moved in North Korea, every brick standing on top of another. After running low on urban targets, U.S. bombers destroyed hydroelectric and irrigation dams, flooding farmland, and destroying crops. The U.S. dropped 635,000 tons of explosives on North Korea. That's over 100,000 more tons than used in the entire Pacific during World War II. 32,000 tons of those bombs were napalm. General Curtis LeMay, head of the Strategic Air Command, said every town was burned down and 1 out of every 5 people was killed from war or starvation or exposure. That's why North Korea is so belligerent. And why is the U.S. so belligerent? That's largely because Donald Trump is dangerously incompetent. Trump tweeted that Secretary of State Rex Tillerson was wasting his time trying to negotiate with Little Rocket Man. Trump undercut Tillerson and insulted Kim Jong-un, the North Korean leader, with that tweet. Vanity Fair says a half dozen prominent Republicans and Trump advisors all describe a White House in crisis as advisors struggle to contain a president who seems to be increasingly unfocused and consumed by dark moods. There's a new bestseller book, The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump, where more than 24 psychiatrists and psychologists offer their consensus view that Trump's mental state presents a clear and present danger to our nation and individual well-being. So one of the best ways to support peace with North Korea is to resist Trump. People can do that by signing up for daily alerts from MoveOn. People can also support Democrats nationwide running for federal and state positions with donations and phone banking. Enough Democrats in Congress means Trump could be impeached, and there's numerous grounds for that. Enough Democrats in state positions means less Republican meddling with voter districts and voter eligibility. So I hope everyone will do all they can to support peace. Thank you.
Good morning, County Council members. It's a great honor to be here. It's a great honor to see all of you this morning. And it's a huge honor that Council Chair Poindexter and Councilman Chung have agreed to co-sponsor this resolution number 36317. It's an idea that I presented, and that's the one to promote diplomatic talks rather than military strike in North Korea. And I was thinking, what should I talk about? There's so much that I have from my own background. I'll just start by saying that my father, he was not a veteran of any war, but he was a refugee of the Korean War. And when I was growing up in South Korea, we were the only house on our street that was spared from bombing, and everybody else lived in just lean-to shacks, no plumbing. So I was born in 61, so I didn't see the actual effects of the war, but I saw how it looked 10 years after. My father came to the United States, became the first Korean-American lawyer in the United States. So, you know, he embraced the tenets and principles of American democracy, but nonetheless, so it's not, when I'm critical of this country and the impacts of all the bombing, it doesn't mean that I am against the United States. It means that I am, I think, a stronger patriot. That's how he trained me to love America. But one thing, another aspect of the past, the history my parents gave me was when I was 9 years old, they took me on a field trip to the Peace Museum in Hiroshima, and it was kind of a life changer for me at that young age, because there were so many exhibits of what memorabilia from that war. And I remember the story of one little girl that was jumping rope, about my age, jumping rope. And at the moment the jump rope came above her head, there was a huge, bright, white flash. And she was vaporized. And there was nothing left but her shadow, jumping rope, on the concrete that was on exhibit. And that really stuck with me. I went back more recently. Well, anyway, it
You have
sounds like
30 seconds.
Okay. I wanted to talk about nuclear winter, because the bombs today are thousands of times more strong than what was at Hiroshima, and we have over 6,000 of them. North Korea is developing one. There is no wiggle room for military strike. If we were to go into war, into nuclear, if it ratcheted up with the insults back and forth. Right now, we've got warships in the Western Pacific specifically sent from Pearl Harbor to deal with North Korea. We can't let it continue. We have to work with diplomacy, because nuclear winter is when all of the smoke goes above the clouds so it doesn't rain out. It shields out 70% of sunlight. No more crops can grow, no more sunlight. It takes decades for it to dissipate, and by that time, who knows what the world will be like. So thank you so much, Councilman Chung, Councilwoman Poindexter, and all the wonderful council people for hearing this resolution. And may your vote for peace send aloha ringing through the planet. I hope that this resolution becomes publicized and people know where Hawaii stands on relations with other countries and with and about peace. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Ruth Robison, President of the United Nations Association of the USA Hawaii Island Chapter. And here with me today is Rosemarie Muller, our treasurer. Thank you, Hawaii County Council members, for your service to Hawaii County, the state of Hawaii, the nation, and now the world. As you know, the United Nations was established after the end of World War II with the goal of preventing future wars and solving conflicts through diplomacy. Our chapter of the United Nations Association is a 501c3, which was started in 1997 by Helene Hale, who served on the County of Hawaii Board of Supervisors, was the county's chairman and executive, and served in the Hawaii House of Representatives. Our purpose, our chapter of the United Nations Association, is to inform the people of Hawaii Island of the work that the United Nations is doing, and to support that work, including peacekeeping and dealing with the root causes of war, such as poverty, hunger, and inequality. I hope you received an email message, an invitation from me to attend our United Nations Day annual luncheon, October 24th, from 11:30 to 1:30 at Nanimau Gardens. Our United Nations Association chapter would like to thank Kuhan Pike, Director of Development with the Hawaii Alliance for Progressive Action, and the sponsors of this resolution, County Council Chairwoman Valerie Poindexter and Councilman Aaron Chung, for moving this resolution forward. We would be proud of our County Council for using its authority and leadership to urge the U.S. to seek a peaceful and diplomatic solution to reduce tensions between the United States and North Korea. We strongly support Resolution 363, and thank you very much.
Good morning and aloha, Council. My name is Danny Lee. I live in KL. Right now, this is really a critical time for Hawaii, the United States, and the world. Now, I don't know how many people realize, but Congress also recently passed a $700 billion war budget for this next fiscal year. And that's 15 times more than what the United States spends on the State Department. 15 times. So it sends out the message to the world that the United States is opting for the war option, military options, instead of a peaceful solution to the problems of the world. So I speak in favor of supporting Resolution 363. So we definitely, this country needs to reform itself and turn itself back to dealing with the world as other countries of the world as equals and negotiate seriously. We haven't done that for a long time. And the $700 billion military budget sends a wrong signal. Now, we really need to negotiate on this issue because, like other people have said, nuclear war is unthinkable. The consequences are so dire. And Pearl Harbor, because of the military headquarters, it's a prime target. We can't afford, none of us can afford that now. So we need to negotiate. But negotiation has to be among equals. North Korea has always said that they wanted a peace treaty with the United States and that all foreign troops should be withdrawn from the peninsula, from the Korean peninsula. The United States has never willingly negotiated about those conditions. So we really need to talk, seriously. When two people talk seriously, everything's got to be out on the table. You can't leave certain options out, like keeping U.S. troops in South Korea. North Korea does not have ships or troops right on the border of the United States. So I support every citizen needs to take time and express their concern that this is a very serious problem. The United States absolutely needs to negotiate in good faith and seriously. Mahalo for your support.
And the next agenda item I wanted to talk on is about Resolution 363. And that's, in my way, it's like sharing aloha to the world by having this resolution to have it's like a peaceful solution for the world. But I'd like to go a step backwards and say that, Nanaye ke kumu, the word aloha has special meaning to me because I am a half Hawaiian. And it's like we were taught that the word aloha is love. The word aloha is God. So it's a combination of the two. Yeah, God is love. And before we can go out, and my opinion is, before we go out and share it to the world, we have to start from the beginning. And this is to this Aina. Now, we don't have aloha for our people. I see how it's that word is used selectively. Selectively to show, just to show. It's like a greeting. And to me, I take offense to that. If we are going to share the word aloha to all, we have to start with our people here. Because I see there is none. And many of you know that I have been, with the protectors. Because it's very spiritual, this word. My mom and my dad, my grandfather, our family goes back to Umialiloa. So it's very important that we not only act the culture or act the word, we have to live it. So we need to start. If we can do a resolution to give aloha to the world, that we can start by correcting what was wrong to our people here, because we're still here and we'll never leave. And yes, aloha, Hawaii, the word Hawaii is the breath of life from God. And nowhere in the world have we got this. We are the piko of the whole world. When you put the map down, you flatten it, you see that Hawaii is the piko. And to have the piko is the umbilical cord to where? To the earth. Because we are still, Tutupeli is still giving out life through her lava. And it's still living. So let me just finish with this. In Reverend Akaka's word, his statehood word, the act, he said that aloha keakua in the words was given to our people, and God is aloha, and aloha is love. Aloha is the power of God seeking to unite what is separated in the world, the power that unites heart with heart, soul with soul, life with life, culture with culture, race with race, nation with nation. Aloha is the power that can reunite. When a quarrel has brought separation, aloha is the power that reunites a man with himself when he has become separated from the image of God within. So I leave this with you folks, that do not just be selective in choosing the Hawaiian words, because to me it's a imimana. If you're going to use it right and not just use it as a word. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha, Council members. Jim Albertini of
Aloha.
Malu Aina, here in support of Resolution 363 for diplomacy, not war, and to reduce tensions on the Korean Peninsula. But it's not just the Korean Peninsula. We all see the increasing tensions in our world with Iran, with Russia, etc. I think it's important to gain perspective. In my view, the threat of nuclear war is greater today than at any time since the Cuban Missile Crisis 55 years ago this week. And Dr. Martin Luther King, a great influence on me, said 50 years ago, and I quote, "The greatest purveyor of violence in the world today is my own government," end quote. Now, the only thing that has changed since King spoke those prophetic words 50 years ago is that things have gotten much worse. The U.S. killing continues to escalate, and it's time to say enough. The United States has spent $5 trillion on wars just since 9/11. That's $5 trillion that could have been spent on health care, education, cleaning up the environment right here in Hawaii County. It's time to say that the wars and the threat of wars, and it's time to stop the destruction of our Mother Earth. Today, the United States has moved aircraft carriers and accompanying warships into nearby waters off Korea. It has placed killer drones and Navy SEAL Team 6 Special Ops assassins in Korea and has put U.S. troops on high alert. In the event the U.S. attempts to assassinate North Korean leader Kim Jong-un or attacks North Korean nuclear sites, there is a high likelihood that North Korean cannons along the DMZ will fire on Seoul, a city of millions, and even the possibility that nuclear missiles may even be fired on Tokyo, Guam, Hawaii, etc. A missile doesn't have to be very accurate to hit a city the size of Tokyo. So, in conclusion, I think it's important to say, and as this resolution is a start, no more war. The only shelter is peace. It's time to support diplomacy, not war, in the Korean Peninsula and all over the world. Mahalo.
Sitting here and listening to all the other people talk, and you can tie quite a bit of it together from the emergency aspects that civil defense faces. Should there be a mass disaster? Well, the food service for Orchid Land neighbors would really be expanded, and they probably would be instrumental in helping distribute on that aspect. As a retired Foreign Service officer, U.S. Department of State, Consul First Secretary retired in '92, I've been back here. And I guess I get a little stirred up when people start telling the executive branch how to conduct foreign policy. That would be like you sitting in your kitchen talking to your wife, deciding how you should do something. And we are the little kids in the living room just kind of getting snippets, not really knowing what's going on. World War II had its challenges with Roosevelt, who ran as a peacetime president because of a huge peace movement to stay out of World War II, and he was prepping for war as soon as he was elected with Churchill. I've just watched 5 of the DVDs on Vietnam out of 10, So I'm kind of brought up to, I think it's January of 1968, and that's when I showed up over there. And to hear, after the release of information, Kennedy agonizing over the decisions he's making adverse to his consul, and Johnson for the entire duration not listening to his advisors. It's no different today. The talk goes on in the Foreign Service or State Department, the smallest department in the nation. And yeah, they're talking, they're doing their thing. And one thing's for sure, the United States doesn't want to be in the same position that happened in Pearl Harbor, with an ambassador in Washington talking peace and Pearl Harbor being attacked within hours. And I do thank you very much for trying to tie everything together today. Thank you.
In support of Resolution 363, and I would kind of like to suggest that maybe go a step further and maybe offer to North Korea that maybe, you know, a town here or the county itself could be a sister, you know, have a sister relationship to one of their communities. You know, I mean, it seems like there's no meat on the bone, and that might be a way to, you know, I mean, once we understand each other better, you know, then the chances of us getting into a conflict just because we don't know each other becomes less. So I think that that's one way of doing it. I'm not in favor of isolationism. I'm not in favor of globalism either. So, you know, I guess I'm stuck in the middle. But I just think that, you know, like when it comes to sanctions, which is pretty much our strategy right now, all you're doing is driving the people further and further into their abyss when they need to feel hope too, you know. We get to feel hope here in America for the most part, even though a lot of times that hope is, you know, not as great as we might think it is, but we still at least have that. And people in North Korea need to feel like the rest of the world cares about them. And you know, this is a small measure just to say, you know, you're one of us, and we care about you too. And I think that's better than isolating them and making them even poorer and making them even more pissed off at the United States. We have enough people pissed off at us already. Thank you for your consideration.
Hello, my name is Puena An. I am Korean. I may be one of the only other Koreans here to support this, and thank you to Kuhan and Councilman Chung and Auntie Val, Tim, Jen. Hi, guys. I'd like to really start this off to say that my great-grandfather came to Hawaii as a plantation laborer in the early part of the 20th century. His grandfather was from the north before there was a DMZ. He was the archivist in the court of Emperor Kojong. What I'd really like to say about this is a few things. You know, first off, I love my country, you know, and those of you who know me know that I'm actually speaking to the Hawaiian Kingdom, but that's not really what I came here to speak about. I don't think I really need to go too much into the frightening, horrendous nightmare of a Pandora's box that nuclear war would be. I think that speaks for itself. What I would like to say, though, is, you know, if you're gonna dabble in international politics, you know, may as well take it a step further and encourage President Moon Jae-in of South Korea to, you know, take the stand and pull off the THAAD system if we're gonna de-escalate. You know, encourage President Xi Jinping to take a greater role in de-escalating any potential conflict. If you're gonna, if you know, for what this is worth. I just want to just follow that up and say, you know, I left a piece of my heart and soul, and I would hate to see Korea's national treasures and the wonderful people of Korea to be subject to war and destruction again.